Hello everyone, good morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time you're at right now. It's been a while since I talked about the Letdown movie, hasn't it? I felt like making a revised version of my video critique of the film after realizing my 2023 review was pretty crap. And now the time has finally come. Let's get some things out of the way. This review will contain major spoilers for the Letdown movie and other films, as well as some episodes from the show. Unless you're okay with spoilers, leave now or forever hold your peace. My video will still be waiting for you when you get back. So without further ado, grab some drinks and snacks, sit back, and relax as we get this show on the road. The Letdown movie is an animated musical comedy film produced by Nickelodeon Movies and distributed by Netflix. Released on August 20th, 2021, it is based on the popular Nickelodeon series of the same name, but without movie in the title. The Letdown movie is a film that could have and should have been great. A film based on TLH, while late, is not an idea that's doomed from the start. One thing for sure is that Nickelodeon was pretty lucky the movie was sent to Netflix, because it would have flopped harder than Flip had it been released in theaters. But perhaps I'm getting a bit too ahead of myself. You probably already know what the Letdown is, but for those who don't, allow me to explain. It follows the chaotic lives of a middle kid and his 10 sisters. It was a hit in its debut and, big surprise, it surpassed SpongeBob SquarePants in ratings at the time. Crazy, am I right? I'm generally neutral towards the show. Like every piece of media that exists, or ever will exist, it is far from perfect. While the show has its hidden gems, it also has its share of stinkers. Moving on. When I heard TLH was getting its very own movie, I was super excited. I enjoyed the first two SpongeBob films. We don't talk about these two. But the Letdown never had a full-length feature film before. My expectations were sky high, and I constantly imagined what the film would be about. The sheer potential for a TLH film was limitless and full of endless possibilities. But this was my reaction after reading the film's synopsis. And my reaction after watching it. I guess the writers of the film were too afraid to take risks with the story and make it more gripping, mature, and phenomenal. So instead, we got this. The next part is when I talk about the film itself. So once again, spoiler alert. I won't talk about the entire film, but I will point out the many issues I have with it. I won't spend too much time nitpicking, because they leave no impact on the film as a whole. So I'ma do y'all a favor and leave this here to save time. Anyways, now for my main criticisms, aka the flaws that impact the film. First off, Lincoln's sisters are portrayed as celebrities whom everyone loves and adores, despite this never having been the case in the original show. And if that wasn't bad enough, his family kind of forgets about his existence without a care in the world after he is accidentally locked out of his dad's restaurant. And Scooch shows no sympathy for him whatsoever.
No trophy, no photo!
Shut up, bitch!
Because of this, Lincoln feels overshadowed by his sisters and goes to his best friend Clyde McBride's house to vent about it.
Wait a minute!
Where have I seen this before? Ain't this a rehash of the season 1 episode Making the Case? He tells Clyde that he's not special like his sisters and his best friend. Which is funny, because Lincoln made a fan comic based on a Savvy in the season 2 episode, Pulp Friction. And yes, Clyde helped make the comic, but you get my point. Being able to make a comic even if you work with someone to do it clearly makes you good at something. So I have no clue what the writers were thinking when he said that.
What were they thinking?
Clyde explains that baking runs in his family. He discovered this when he went to France with his grandmother and learned that his ancestral grandmothers were also bakers. This explains why he has a natural talent for baking. It has been passed down from generation to generation. This gives the man with the plan a brilliant idea. He decides to convince his family to trace their origins, and they eventually discover they are of Scottish royalty. I'm gonna be real with y'all. Unlike most, I actually don't mind the fantasy elements that are in the show nowadays. But in this film, this is just insane. I mean, dragons and ghosts?
What?
But they pale in comparison to the most glaring plot hole that plagues this film. What became of the Lau family's ancestors in the 1600s? Well, you see, our lovely friend and director of this movie, Dave Needham, has an explanation for that. After they were banished from the kingdom of Morag's ancestor Aggie, they sailed to America and settled in a place called Woods, Michigan, which later became known as Royal Woods, Michigan. One might think to themselves, well, that makes sense, except there are two itsy-bitsy problems with that explanation. Get ready to open your notebooks and sharpen your pencils, because class is now in session. America wasn't founded until July 4th, 1776, which is when the Continental Congress adopted the Declaration of Independence. Michigan didn't become a state until January 26, 1837. Needham's explanation makes no sense at all.
What are you talking about?
Class dismissed, and as a joke, here's this scene.
Did it, Stinky?
As insignificant as they may seem in the grand scheme of things, there are things I liked about this film. One of them is the opening scene, which shows how the modern Loud family came to be. And thus, a legend was born. Okay, that was bad. I found it genuinely sweet to see his sisters bonding with him, if only their relationship didn't turn out so inconsistent. Lincoln teaching Lily to outwit but also help their siblings was kinda nice. Some of the characters in the movie are likable, but if I had to pick one favorite character from the movie, it would be Angus. He's very helpful, nice, and understanding. He's a good mentor, and dare I say, a better father figure to Lincoln than Lynn Sr. Come at me. I found their relationship dynamic wholesome, and his interactions with Morag are quite amusing.
Crashing through the crowded halls, dodging girls like rainbow moles, just to reach the bathroom on time.
Speaking of whom, she stands out as one of the movie's best parts, most of the time. Unlike most antagonists in the original show who are bullies or just jerks, Morag is an actual threat to the main characters and the citizens of Loch Loud, or at least initially. Please remember this for later. She's sinister, but also mildly sympathetic and kinda relatable, at least for me. Like her, I too want my peace and quiet. I also found this scene where she travels far away from the kingdom while bearing her emotions before reaching the cliff to rant so loud to be kinda hilarious. The voice acting is great and the animation is mostly good. However, I will say that the concept art looks a tiny bit better. Sadly, everything else about the movie isn't great. The soundtrack is decent enough. I know there are a lot of people who consider The Duchess I Must Be to be the worst song in the movie. I respectfully disagree. That song's a freaking banger, and you should listen to it when you get the chance. The rest of the songs can go home. Though if you enjoy all the songs, more power to you. And now, the collapse of this movie is finally upon us. It begins with Lincoln Loud riding the dragon as he is in the spotlight that his sisters steal from him. But things go awry when he loses control of the dragon, unintentionally endangering the citizens and destroying everything in their path.
Well, you backstabbing, two-faced, ugly motherfucker.
They blame him for something that clearly wasn't his fault.
We lost everything.
What? What are you talking about?
The most your people have lost are restaurants, a bridge, and the privacy of your own home, I guess. Did you all take stupid pills this morning? Anyway, the angry mob tells Lincoln to go home, and he, feeling ashamed, decides to. He gives up the crown, stepping down from being the Duke, and his family decides to go home. Morag lies to its citizens about them requesting that she be the Duchess of Loch Loud. She crowns herself and the game is over. Angus objects, and after Morag admits to her deception, the rest of the citizens follow suit. Finally, she decides to take matters into her own hands. Wow, that is a huge dragon she has in her arsenal. This is the moment we've been waiting for. She had been built up as a potential threat to Loch Loud, and now the time is finally here. She takes over the town and everyone has to evacuate. So surely, there's no reason to assume that she wouldn't give the Louds a run for their money once they return. And she would never be defeated so idiotically, right? Right? I don't know, let's find out.
A few moments later.
What?! First of all, how is Morag able to control Layla the dragon perfectly when she can't see where she is flying while relaxing in the tub? Secondly, are you kidding me? How is she overwhelmed? The Loud siblings distract her one by one and that's how she starts to lose Lamau. How? And why is this working? Even considering how, well, loud Luna Loud's guitar playing is, I refuse to believe it would be powerful enough to repel the dragon, even with speakers. How are Morag and Layla the dragon overwhelmed by soccer and golf balls? How did Lincoln manage to accurately leap onto the dragon at the right time?
How is this possible? You should be dead!
How is this the worst boss fight I've seen in cinema? You know what? Screw it. The real question is, how is Morag losing to 11 kids?
This is so stupid!
Think about it this way. In Big Hero 6, Professor Callahan lost because he ran out of microbots.
That was his mistake.
In Zootopia, Assistant Mayor Sheepdweeb lost because Monsters Incorporated. They may seem like dumb comparisons, but my point still stands. These villains may have lost, but they had fewer resources. Morag had a freaking dragon and a royal scepter with a stone that can mind control her into being evil. If not for the Loud's plot armor, they would be dead as soon as Morag learned of their return. I can't do it. This is too much for me to handle. Please just make it stop. Anywho, Lincoln Loud battles Morag while they're on top of her mind control dragon. And do you know what happens to them? They both friggin' die. And so Lincoln confessed that he was selfish and wanted to be special like his sisters. And with the ghost of the former Duke's blessing, he dubs Angus the new Duke of Loch Loud. I mean, what did you expect? I guess the moral of the story was, you don't need to be in a position of power to feel special. But you want to know what frustrates me the most? The fact the Loud family found out that their family originated from Scotland is the only reason the film is allowed to happen at all. And it also contradicts previous episodes of the show. To quote Gaming Magic 13, seemingly minor problems can cause major ripple effects elsewhere. Let's review, shall we? If the sisters aren't celebrities, there is no conflict to kick off the film. If Lincoln doesn't feel overshadowed, and Clyde doesn't tell him about his ancestry, he doesn't try to convince his family to find out where their ancestors originated from. If Angus pays attention to Morag's ridiculous Freudian slip, he realizes that her ancestors drove the 1600s Louds away from Scotland and warns the Louds of the present day about this, keeping an extra eye on her and ensuring she never executes her plan. If she doesn't find out that Layla the dragon grows the more food she consumes, she doesn't use that to her advantage as the film progresses. If Lincoln doesn't easily convince his family to move to Scotland, then the rest of the film cannot progress. If the stone isn't in her ancestors' journal, Morag can't control the dragon. If she doesn't eavesdrop on Lincoln's conversation with Clyde on the phone, she has no ammunition that she can use against him by manipulating his sisters into showcasing their talents. exploiting his insecurities to persuade him to ride the dragon. If Lucy and Lucille find out that Morag is hiding her ancestor's journal, they could have stopped her plan and the film comes to a screeching halt. If the townspeople aren't brain dead and notice the dragon Lincoln was riding on was mind control based on the change of eye color alone, they never blame him for the destruction and his family never decides to leave. If Morag waited for her ancestor's journal to burn completely instead of leaving so soon, Lucille Loud doesn't appear to lift it out of the flames, doesn't uncover the truth as to why her family was banished, and doesn't share it with her descendants. If Morag doesn't admit to her deception, no one turns against her. If she was an actual threat and didn't get overwhelmed and defeated so ridiculously, the Loud family and Angus get turned into Kentucky Fried Humans, or in the worst case scenario, Lincoln becomes an orphan and the sole survivor of the massacre. Then again, if Lincoln faces off against Morag all by himself, movie over. If Layla doesn't save Lily and Lincoln at the last second from their impending doom, movie over. If even a single plot issue in this script changes no matter how small, you get what I'm saying?
Oh, forget it.
So the Loud family and the ghosts of their ancestors help rebel Lock Loud, more shenanigans take place. To be honest with you, this is my least favorite scene in the film. It's even worse than the boss fight. Every time I see this, I feel nothing but disdain for Lincoln's family. But you likely already know why. We're not talking about this part. And they all set sail and bid farewell to Lock Loud and the townspeople. Then Bobby arrives, but he's too little, too late. And that was the Loud House movie. Please end my misery. To say that this movie was disappointing would be a massive understatement. Was it a catastrophic disaster of a movie? No. Is it an absolute travesty of cinema? No. Is it an utterly irreparable blemish on Nickelodeon's record of filmmaking? You get the point already. Absolutely not. And it's certainly not the worst the show has gone in.
I'm talking to you, Soren the Film Brony.
But I know one thing for sure. This movie blows. The first two SpongeBob movies succeeded in making their stories more exciting than the TV series they were based on. The Loud House movie failed to do this, and it's kind of depressing to think about. I've read several TLH regular and alternate universe fanfictions, and I know most of them can be repetitive. You know the ones, but they're so much better than the film itself. When you have the opportunity to create a great movie based on a popular series, and you don't seize it, that's so frustrating. And when the story is the most predictable thing in the world, it's not very surprising. The Loud House movie feels like a pile of recycled scripts of episodes from the show, with the writers copying and pasting certain elements and passing them off as a feature film. The animation and soundtrack are nothing more than decorations that, without an engaging and competent story to support them, ring entirely hollow. While visuals always age in due time, a well-written script is timeless. At least No Time to Spy, a Loud House movie, was a slight improvement over this film, but that's not really saying much. And unfortunately, none of these films seem to leave a huge impact on this series as a whole. If I were in charge of the Loud House movie, I would make it into a Telltale type adventure movie where every choice the protagonist makes changes the story, leading to a bunch of what ifs. But some ideas are full of worms, and that's no good. Overall, I didn't hate this movie. I didn't dislike it. I sorta liked it. I'm just not satisfied with the final product. It could have been a lot worse, I guess. Nevertheless, the subpar writing and missed potential are the reasons why the Loud House movie was a letdown. Therefore, I am giving this film a 6 out of 10. All I can say is, if you like films that have adventure, fantasy, and musical numbers, you'll probably enjoy this film. Oh, and one more thing. If there is one scene in the movie I would improve above all else, it would be this.
The world is weak, soft. We have forgotten what it is to be strong. You know, our heroes used to be gods. And now our heroes are godless, weak, feeble, diseased. We let the weak dictate to the powerful, and then we are shocked to find ourselves adrift. But history knows the value of sacrifice, of culling the herd so that it stays strong. Over and over, the lives of the many have outweighed the lives of the few. This is how we survived, and we've forgotten. And now, the bill has come due. Now, the collapse is upon us. And this time, the lives of the few outweigh the lives of the many. And when a nation that's never known hunger or desperation descends into madness, we'll be ready. We will cull the herd. We will do what needs to be done.
If this video gets taken down, I'm gonna leave this here.
Perhaps I treated you too harshly.
That is all. Long live the Duke of Loch Loud, and I hate my life. Thanks for watching, everyone. I wanted to make a revised version of my original review for quite some time. At long last, the trilogy of videos in serious need of revision has been completed. What are your thoughts on the Loud House movie? Any writing flaws I might have missed? Share your thoughts in the comments. As always, feel free to let me know if you preferred this version of my review or the old one. Until next time, this is 𝘕𝘰𝘸 I, and I'm out. Take care, everyone.